Okay, it's Henry again, and this is the second work in progress video for the 1:144 scale high grade after colony Leo. And in the first part you saw we got the Leo pretty much finished, and in this part I'm just going to be making a quick, simple display base to put him on. Now I've just got this piece of wood here. I got that from Hobby Lobby, and a piece of floral foam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this floral foam onto the wood here, and then carve and sand that down and just make a nice little slope. This is the same diameter as the wood, and that'll give us a nice base to put our groundwork on. Okay, so I've got my foam glued down and sanded down, and I got a nice little slope here. I think that looks pretty good. And next I'm going to start making the tree. I'm basically using Luke Towan's technique for making wire trees. Just look that up on YouTube. He's got a lot of really good diorama stuff. And I've got this wire. This is 28 gauge wire, and I'm going to be clipping off several strands of this, and then I'll be twisting them together to make my tree. Okay, so I've got my tree made. Just twisted the wires all up together, and then sort of peeled them off at the top, and then branched them off little by little. Don't know how. That zooms in pretty good, despite it being so skinny. So anyway, not putting any leaves. It's going to be a winter scene, so I'm just going to go with a dead, or not dead, but a leafless tree. And got the roots. I got it glued onto the foam with some clear PVA glue, and I just used these small pliers to help with the bending of the wire. So anyway, in the tutorial I watched, he covered the whole base and then the tree with plaster. I don't have any plaster. I guess I could go get some, but what I do have is some clay, and what I've done is I've just mixed a little bit of clay with some water and then some acrylic paint to act as a binder, and made this really thin clay paint mixture. And I'm just going to brush this on because clay and plaster kind of have a similar texture, so I think this will be a decent substitute. And yeah, I know it's black, but after I get this brushed on, I'm going to go back and spray over this with some primer anyway, so it doesn't really matter what color it is right now. And what I'm hoping is that this clay mixed in with the paint is going to give us a nice grainy, gritty texture. And if it's not enough, if it doesn't quite cover up that wire texture, then I can always go in and add some other kind of texture. Alright, so I got to looking at my tree, and I decided that it was a little bit too skinny. It didn't really look in scale with the Leo. So I decided to add a little bit of bulk to the trunk. I didn't really add much of anything to the branches, mainly just focusing on the trunk. I mean, I'm sort of using this clay to extend the trunk into the branches, as you can see a little bit right there, but mainly just the trunk, because skinny trees like it was before tend to be smaller unless they're like pine trees, and this obviously isn't a pine tree. So I didn't really have a certain type of tree in mind. I was just thinking like an oak tree or something. Obviously a tree that's going to lose its leaves in winter time. So I'm just going in and adding some bark texture, and At that point, I think I'll be just about ready to get this thing primed and then painted. Okay, so it turns out that using the air dry clay was a terrible idea. I knew that the clay was going to shrink up a little bit when it dried, but it shrunk up more than I thought it was going to, and it cracked right in the middle of the trunk. And as I was trying to fill that crack, the trunk cracked in like 2 or 3 other places, so I just had to break all of that clay off and start over. So now I'm doing the exact same thing, only this time with epoxy putty. And epoxy putty does not shrink, and this is probably what I should have used in the first place. But it's a valuable lesson. Don't ever be afraid to fail. Trial and error is one of the most important parts of the modeling hobby. And even if you do fail at something, at least then you'll know what not to do next time. So, important lesson. Okay, so now that I got the whole thing primed up, I just used some spray can primer. I didn't bother airbrushing on the Mr. Surfacer. Now it is time for painting, and just using 4 colors. I got 2 shades of brown, black, and white, and I'm just going to kind of go into these. I'm not going to bother painting the snow. Well, I may paint a little bit of the snow on like the branches and stuff, but I'm not going to paint the snow on the ground. I've actually got something else in mind for that, so I'm just using a ground color, not trying to make it even. I want it to be kind of, has some variations in there, so I'll throw in some of that light brown here and there. Maybe throw in a little bit of the black, because, I mean, dirt's not uniformly colored, so why should it be on my display base? Okay, and for the actual trunk, I don't want it to be brown. I want it to be more of a dark brownish gray color. So I'm going to take some of this white and go into the black, some of this brown, yeah, that looks about right. And that's what I'm going to use for the tree trunk. In fact, I can probably use a little bit more black in there. Make that a bit darker. So that way it'll stand out more once I get the snow effects on there. Okay, so I've got the tree and the base painted. Did a little bit of dry brushing on the tree just to highlight the raised edges and stuff, highlight the roots, make that look nice and good. I think it looks pretty good. I'm ready for the snow now. Now there's lots of different products you can get, professional modeling companies making snow effects. I wasn't really planning on spending a whole lot of time or money on this little display base, so I'm going to go with the old-fashioned modeler's method and use baking soda. So it actually is a really fine powder, so I think it'll look pretty in scale with 1 to 1/44. So I've got some scenic glue here, which is basically just watered down white glue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cheap little paintbrush here, and I'm going to brush this on to the base. Now most of the ground is going to be covered in snow, and then with the actual tree I'll just have the upward facing surfaces covered with snow, because, you know, that makes sense. So I'm just going to do a thin layer of this scenic glue on the base here. Now, I'm fairly certain I'm going to have to do 2 or 3 passes with this to get the proper coverage. It'll probably be a bit of give and take, applying some snow, removing a little bit of snow, applying some more snow, removing a little bit more. So it'll probably be a give and take technique before I finally get it exactly how I want it. So, alright, let's see, where's my little spoon here, my little paint mixing spoon. I'm going to move this glue to the side so I don't knock that over. And I'm just going to take this and sprinkle it on my display base. Actually, I should probably have a plastic container so I don't get this all over my hobby mat, but whatever. Still in the early stages right now. So, like I said, this is actually a really fine powder, so it works pretty well for 1:144 scale. And I'm just going to sprinkle this on here, and then I'll turn this upside down and shake off all the excess and see what I'm left with. Alright, and after all that work, the display base and the Leo is finally done. And I've just got on my little Tamiya rotating spray stand here so that won't really have to handle this all that much. So I sprinkled the snow, glued it all in place, sprayed it with a nice clear top coat just to kind of seal everything up. Also put some snow on the Leo as well, because it wouldn't make sense for the tree to have snow on it and the ground, but not the Leo. So all in all, for my first winter, I won't even say diorama, I think vignette is the proper term. For my first winter scene, I think it turned out pretty alright. So I'm relatively happy with it. I think I probably could have done a better job on the winter whitewash, but like I said, that's something to improve for the next time around. But all in all, I think I'm fairly happy with the way this guy looks. And the tree actually looks pretty good. The ground, well, it's covered in snow, so not really much to say about it, but overall I'm happy. And I think that about does it for this work in progress video and for this project. So with that, I'll see you guys next time.